Hi, today I'm gonna show you how to knit this cabled short poncho or skirt. Let's get started. Okay guys, first of all, please check my description box for all the details such as written pattern, yarn, needle, and gauge. Especially a written pattern. I put the link for my website so you can download my free pattern. This time I knitted it with this yarn, just one ball. And then this is the leftover. So if you want to make the longer one, I think you need more yarn. All right? So this time, as you can see, there's the lots of cables, front and back. And I increase little by little. Where did I increase? Inside of cable, invisibly. There are a lot of ways to increase stitches when you do the cable knitting. Usually, people increase outside of the cable. And cable pattern itself is pretty much same. Well, not pretty much. It's completely same. And then outside of the cable, increase. But this time, in between cables, always purl 2. And inside of the cable, I'm going to increase. As you can see, my rib is knit 2 purl 2. And whenever you hit the desired length, the transition from knit 2 to cable is nice and smooth. I didn't disturb any purl stitch, as you can see. Always purl 2. And the cable is getting bigger and bigger and longer because every time I increase inside of the cable, I add 1 row. So as you can see from the begin to end, the completely different size. And I add 1 stitch every 4th cable pattern. So if you want to make it much bigger size, I think you should increase 1 stitch maybe every 3rd cable or 2nd cable. You know, it's really up to you, right? And you don't want to increase that fast. You can actually increase every 5 or 6 cable row. So it's really up to you. But for me, every 4th cable pattern, I increase 1 stitch. All right? So it's kind of up to you. And my pattern didn't say much, okay? I want to focus on how to increase. First of all, right there, from knit to purl to rib, I have to increase 2 stitch right away. And that's the only time I increase 2 stitch in 1 cable. Now, let me talk about my gauge and cast on number. As you can see, my desired neck measurement was 20. Then I did the math. So my cast on number should be 100 according to my gauge and desired length. However, the cast on rule is when your whole stitch divided by 4 has to be even number. You have to pick even number when you divide it by 4. So if I pick 100, 100 divided by 4 is 25. So it's not good. So has to be even number. So I pick 104 instead. All right. That's because my cable design start with C4B and end with C4F. Repeat of C4B and C4F. So if you don't understand right now, don't worry. Just pick even number if you divide it by 4. All right? Now, let me talk about how often you want to increase. It's really up to you. Okay? Like I said before, I did same cable pattern 3 times. And 4th time, I increase 1 stitch in the middle of the cable. And I add 1 row. It's really up to you because as you can see, it's very stretchy. But the sizing is seriously, it's up to you. You can start with bigger neck rib and then you can increase slowly, or you want to make it oversized so you can increase every second cable. It's really up to you. Okay, so let's move on. Cast on, multiple of 4. I made 104. Again, cast on rule number 1. When you divide your cast on number by 4, has to be even number. So 104. And after you cast on, make sure it's not twisted and start making rib. The rib has to be repeat of knit 2 and purl 2 until your desired length. I knitted it about 4 inch. You just have to be very careful on first row, and from the second row you just have to knit over knit stitch and purl over purl stitch. After the neck rib, you need to have my written pattern with increasing formula. There you go. I knitted it about 4 inch and now I add markers. It's really up to you, but you better have the marker. Every other knit 2 section I add markers, and with marker I'm gonna do left twist. Without the marker knit section, I'm gonna do right twist. So you should do something like this so you're not gonna get confused. You know what I'm saying? Again, with marker, left twist. Without the marker, on the knit 2 section, right twist. And now cabling kicks in. Okay, so let's move on to the setup row, which is increasing. And this time only increase knitting section with marker. Everything else, knit over knit stitch and purl over purl stitch. I decide I'm not going to increase at the same time. All right, so here comes knit stitch with the marker. Again, with the marker, I'm going to do left shift twist. So if it's left shift, I have to increase on second stitch. So knit the first one and then next one knit front. This is regular way, and do not drop the second stitch, and knit back loop then knit front again. So knit front, back, and front. So now I have 4 stitch instead of knit 2. All right. So now purl 2 because everything else just knit over knit and purl over purl. So right here, just knit 2, right? I will increase later on. But this time only with knit 2 with marker. So here comes. I'll show you a couple more times. Left shift increase, knit the first one, and then knit front, and then back loop, then knit front. So I increase 2 stitch on second knit stitch, right? And total of 4. And this way, you kind of increase shifting left. That's why I increase this way. And here comes one more time. I'll show you, maybe zoom up a bit. So first one, just regular knit and drop the stitch off. And second one, knit front, keep the stitch on the left needle, and then knit back loop. Like that. So now I have 3 knit stitch there. So I am going to knit one more front. So on the second stitch, knit front, back, and front. All right. So this is set up for left twist. So anyway, from now on, I'm gonna call section A for the stitch with marker and section B for stitch without the marker, because I don't want you to get confused. And section A, left twist, and section B, right twist. All right. And if I say A and B row number 1, which means same. All right. So A and B row number 1, just knit over knit stitch and purl over purl stitch. And row number 2, I am going to do the cable only for section A, left twist. And row number 5, I'm going to do cable for section B, which is right side without the marker. All right. So if you actually see my written pattern, it's easier. All right. And section B, which is without the marker, I will have to do setup row on row number 3. So I'm gonna show you step by step, so don't worry about it too much. This is row number 1 for both A and B, and now row number 2, right? Section A with the marker, I'm gonna do cable, and everything else just knit over knit and purl over purl stitch. All right, so let's do C4F, cable for front. Picking up the 2 stitch with cable needle and put out front, and knit 2 from left needle, then come back to cable needle. Then knit 2 from cable needle. This is cable for front, C4F. Obviously, I only do cable for the stitch with marker A section, because I need 4 stitch to do the C4F. All right, so everything else just knit over knit and purl over purl. And here comes C4F. Pick up 2 stitch with cable needle and put out front. Then knit 2 from left needle, come back to cable needle, then knit 2. This is C4F. And you just go around on row number 2. Super easy. All right. Well, again, if you want to increase at the same time, and if you want to do cable at the same time, you can do that too. But I decide I'm not going to. Now, I am going to show you setup row for section B, which is without the marker, which is going to be right shift. And probably you have some kind of the guess. You're right. On the first stitch, now you have to increase. Knit front, back, front on the first stitch of 2. Okay, I just knit front and back, and now front. It's a little bit tight, especially the first one because of the begin marker. So just take your time and knit 1 on the second stitch. That's about it. And on the row number 3, section A, just knit over knit and purl over purl. So just follow the previous stitch. Okay, and the knit stitch without the marker, section B, just set up row. So focus on increasing, knit front and back, and 1 more, and knit front, because I have to increase 2 stitch. Then knit second one. So now you have 4 stitch instead of 2. And you just have to keep doing until the begin marker comes. Super easy. Okay, this is setup row, but row number 3. And this setup row is only one time thing. All right, next row number 3, you just have to knit over knit and purl over purl. And follow my written instruction. And here is row number 5. Section B, without the marker, I have to do cable, which is C4B, which is cable for back. Easy. Pick up 2 with cable needle, and now it says cable for B, so hold it at the back like that and knit 2 from left needle, then come back, knit 2 from cable needle. This is C4B. Pretty easy. And section A and purl, just knit over knit and purl over purl stitch. All right, so I'll show you maybe one more time at least. C4B, super easy. This is still straightforward. And after this, increase kicks in. Okay, so one more C4B. Pick up 2 stitch with cable, hold it at the back, then knit 2 from left needle, then come back to cable needle, then knit 2 from cable needle. This is C4B. B. And do one more round. And row number 6, knit over knit and purl over purl. And while you're doing C4FMB, which is 4-stitch cable, you have to you have to repeat row number 1 to row number 6. I did total of 3 times. Besides the setup row. All right. And on the false cabling, I will increase 1 stitch. And after I increase 1 stitch, I add 1 more row. So whenever I increase 1, and now you have a 5 knitting stitch, I will have to repeat row number 1 to row number 7. So wider and taller, the cable part. All right. So now, again, still C4F and C4B. So you will repeat row number 1 till row number 6. And you have to do cabling at least 3 times. However, if you want to increase faster, you can repeat only 2 times, something like that. It's really up to you. And here comes, I've done cable for front and back 3 times. Okay, anyway, the increasing starts right now. And please forget about what I'm showing you right now, okay? Because now I have to talk about rules and formula for increasing stitches inside of the cable. First of all, rule number 1. Bigger number of stitches cross the front. Even if you don't understand right now, don't worry, you will understand. And rule number 2. Always increase at the center of cable, in the middle of cable. And rule number 3, increase the needle behind. You know, whenever you do the cabling, you put the cable needle front or back, right? No matter what, you always increase back needle, not the needle front. Either left needle or cable needle, right? And rule number 4, well, this is kind of option. And I already told you, whenever you increase 1 stitch, you add 1 row. Because the cable will be wider and wider, right? But if you just repeat increasing row number 1 to row number 6, you know, it's kind of fatty cable only. But I want a cable bigger too, you know, taller and wider, right? That's maybe better. So those 4 rules you have to remember first. Okay, so let me talk about the increasing formula. I know some people don't like the math. However, if you understand this formula, you can increase any stitch you want. First of all, it's different to increase from even stitch count to odd stitch count. Example, I have 4 stitch now and I have to increase 1 to make it 5. This is from even stitch to odd stitch. And the other one is from odd number of stitch to even, which is, I will talk about it later, from 5 stitch to 6 stitch, something like that. Now, let's talk about more about even stitch number to odd stitch number. Obviously, there's two different ways. If it's left shift or right shift. Okay? But the formula is same. First of all, stitch count divided by 2 plus 1. So I have 4 stitch now, right? So 4 divided by 2 is 2. And 2 plus 1 is 3. So 3 stitch will be out front. You know what I'm saying? So left shift, which means cable, comes front, right? Did you get that? Right shift means cable goes back. So now let's talk about C from 4 to 5 front. So 3 has to be out front. So should I pick 2 stitch with cable needle? However, more stitch number has to be out front. And this time I have to put the cable needle out front, right? So the formula says 3 stitch comes out front. So I have to pick one more stitch with cable needle. Then hold it out front, right? So if cable from 4 to 5 front, you have to pick 3 with cable needle and hold it out front, which means there's only 1 stitch left on the left needle. And again, the rule, maybe number 2, increase back needle, which means I have to increase 1 stitch with stitch on the left needle. Then increasing method is knit front and back. You have to increase only 1 stitch, so you just have to knit front and back. What about the other rule? Has to be in the middle. Well, there's only 1 stitch here, right? So don't worry about it. Just knit front and back. I will talk about that increase in the center thing, later on. Okay? So now I made 1 extra. So I have a 2 stitch on the right needle. Then knit 3 from cable needle. Now you have 5 knitting stitch. There you go. I increase in the middle of cable. There you go. 5 stitch. Easy. I'll show you a couple more times. Again, from even number to odd number, 4 divided by 2 plus 1. So 3 has to be front. So if it's C for F, needle out front. So I pick 3 and then knit front and back from the left needle. Then come back to cable needle. Then knit 3 from cable needle. Now you have 5 stitches. And now I realized I increased 1 stitch in wrong section. And I'm going to actually go back and redo it. But I'll show you one more time. Okay. So here comes with the marker. This is the reason why you should put the marker. So you can realize fast enough, right? Anyway, pick up 3. divided by 2 plus 1 has to be out front. So pick up 3 with cable needle, right? And there's only one left. So don't worry about the center thing. Just knit front and back from the left needle. I increase, right here, because from 1 to 2. Then come back to cable needle and knit 3. Again, now you have 5 stitches there. There you go. And this is actually row number 2, right? You know. And you just actually follow my written pattern, right? So anyway, I'll show you one more time. Here comes again. Left shift from even number to odd number, like 4 stitch to 5 stitch. Stitch count divided by 2 plus 1, which is 3. You have to pick up 3 with cable because this is front cable. That's why. If you do this more and more, you probably understand better. So don't worry about it. I will show you, step by step. There we go again. Just follow my written instruction, besides the cabling section, just knit over knit and purl over purl. And I meet you row number 5, which is increasing and cabling for section B, which is right shift. And I want you to take a look at the formula again. Same formula, right? Even number to odd number. Stitch count divided by 2 plus 1. So 3 this time has to be out front. And this is right shift, which means cable needle goes to back. So if I pick 3 stitch with cable needle this time, the 3 stitch goes to back, right? So another word, you only pick 1 with cable needle, which means rest of the stitch, the 3, automatically come front. That's how you think, okay? So cable from 4 to 5 back is same formula. Stitch count divided by 2 plus 1, 3 goes front. So I only pick 1 stitch with cable needle. Then put the cable needle at the back. So 3 stitch automatically come front. There we go. Did you get that? I hope so, right? And then I increase back needle. So knit 3 from left needle because this is front needle. So I'm not going to increase. And come back to cable needle. There's only 1 stitch. And this is the behind needle, right? So knit front and back to increase. Again, you don't really have to think about the increase at the center because there's only 1 stitch. I'll talk about it later. Okay? And everything else, you just knit over knit and purl over purl. And you have to be very careful. The section A with the marker, now you have a 5 stitch. So you have to be careful. I made couple mistake, but I fix it though. Anyway, again, let's do increasing cable right shift, which is back. Again, stitch count divided by 2 plus 1. 3 has to be out front. So this time cable goes back. So I pick only 1 with cable needle, then knit 3 from left needle, then come back to cable needle, then increase there. The method is knit front and back. Now I have 1 stitch increased. Total of 5 stitch. Easy, isn't it? But if you don't understand this formula and rule, you get confused. So every time you want to increase, you should look at my rule and formula, and you should be able to do any stitch number you want. There you go. Everything else, knit over knit, purl over purl stitch. And let's do one more time, increasing together. I'm sorry, maybe it's kind of, getting tired of listening same thing, but 4 stitch divided by 2 plus 1, so 3 stitch comes out front. So this time you pick only 1 and cable needle goes back and knit 3 from left needle first, and increasing takes a place, okay, at the back, behind the needle. So this time from the cable needle, you have to increase 1 stitch. There we go. So now I have 5 stitch total in section B. So now the left shift and right shift both increase 1 stitch. So I add row number 7. So I have to repeat row number 1 to row number 7. Also, from next cabling, you will have to do C5F and C5B because I just increased 1 stitch. So I have 5 stitches for, knitting section, right? So please don't forget about that. Anyway, so you will have to do total of 3 times, and 4th time I have to increase, but I just want to show you how to do C5 front. Same rule, okay? Just no increasing. So more stitch cross front. So this is front cable knitting. So pick up 3 and knit 2 from left needle, come back to cable needle and knit 3. This is just a C5 front. Same rule, okay? More stitch come out front. Okay? So same, super easy. And I have to show you C5B as well. So same rule, right? So now 3 and 2 stitch. That's how you divide. And more stitch come out front. And now you're doing C5B, which is right shifting. Cable has to be at the back, right? Which means you have to pick 2 with cable needle and hold it at the back, which means automatically 3 knitting stitch come out front. Simple. This is C5B. So after this, cable 7 front, cable 7 back, same way to do, okay? Just divide it by 2, but obviously you can't divide. So if it's 7, 4, and 3. If it's 9, 5, and 4, something like that. And you have to think which stitch come out front. Okay, now increasing from odd number to even number, from 5 stitch to 6, and left shifting, which is front cable. Okay, look at the formula. This time, stitch count plus 1 first. So 5 plus 1 and divided by 2 is now 3. So 3, again, actually, has to be out front. Okay, so this is front cable. The cable needle has to come out front. So again, 5 plus 1 divided by 2 is 3. So 3 has to be out front. So I have to pick up 3 stitch again and put out front. The difference is leftover stitch. There's 2 stitch on the left needle, right? Now you have to think. The center, okay, stitch, you have to increase. And easiest way, okay? So C5F, front, means left twist, right? Front means left twist. So left side of the stitch, you have to increase. So there's 2 stitch. So first one, when you look at the 2 stitch, first one is right side and second stitch is on your left side, right? So you have to knit first one and then increase second one. Then the increased stitch come in the middle, right there. Okay, so think about it. The first stitch you will knit from the left needle will be first stitch of cable because the cable cross. You know what I'm saying? So next stitch, second stitch will be close to center. That's how you think. And increase takes place always needle behind. So knit 1. This is now first stitch. So there we go. Left stitch you have to increase. So if you have 3 or 4 stitch on the left needle this time, very end, last stitch you have to increase. So if it's 3 stitch left, you have to knit 2, then knit front and back. Because first 2 stitch will be beginning of the cable. It's not the center stitch. So how do you remember? Easy. If it's left twist, the front twist, you have to increase very end of the stitch, which is on your very left side. Do you know what I'm saying? If it's right twist, you know what I'm going to say, but I'll talk about it later. Anyway, let's do that one more time. So from 5 to 6, right? So the formula says stitch count plus 1. So 5 plus 1 is 6 divided by 2. So 3 has to be out front. And this is front cabling, right? So the cable needle come out front, so I have to pick 3 with cable needle and hold it out front. And there's 2 stitch left on left needle, which is the one behind. So you have to increase. So which stitch you have to increase? This is front cable, means left shifting. So left side at very end of stitch, you have to increase. So knit from left needle right now. The first knit stitch, you just have to knit. No increasing, because this is right side of the stitch. And second stitch will be very end of stitch. So I have to do knit front and back to increase. So now I have a 3 on right needle, and I have a 3 on cable needle. Total of 6 stitch. So I increase 1 stitch from 5 to 6. There you go. That's how you do it. All right? Easy. First, you kind of have to think, but if you understand the rule and formula, it's easy. Nothing to worry. Right? So let's do that again. Pick up 1, 2, 3, more number, right? Hold it out front and knit first one, and left side of the stitch I have to increase. So knit front and back. Can't you tell this stitch will be the center of cable, because I just make second and third, and there we go. The cable. Did you see that? That's right in the center. I increased. So that's what I meant earlier. You know, when I talk about rule, probably most of the people thought about, what are you talking about? But now you understand. That's good. Okay? So I'm actually showing you one more time, I guess. Because, earlier I increased 1 stitch from 4 stitch, and there was only 1 stitch left over, so I didn't talk about the increase in the center, right? So now I have to talk about it. So pick up 3 with the cable needle, hold it out front, and knit 1, and second one, knit front and back to increase from left needle. So now I have a 3 on the right needle, then come back to cable needle, then knit 3. Now I have 6 stitches. There we go. By the way, am I confusing you? I hope not. But if you learn how to increase inside of the cable knitting, you can improve your knitting as well. And I actually wrote the detail, so even if you don't understand, you can do it. However, I actually stopped cable 8 front and back, so more than that, you have to understand. If you want to knit more stitch count. Anyway, now cable from 5 to 6 back. Okay? Well, same, right? So more number come out front. So now cable has to be at the back. So if I pick 3, with the cable, the more number goes at the back. So you shouldn't pick up 3. So 5 minus 3 is 2. So this 2 stitch, okay, you have to pick with the cable needle. You know what I'm saying? If I pick 3 as earlier, that's wrong because the cable goes at the back. So this time you pick 2 instead of 3 and hold it out front. So automatically 3 more stitch count cross front. That's rule number 2 or 3, right? So knit 3 from left needle first this time. So that's front cabling, right? And come back to, there you go, cable needle. And now I have to increase. So this time back, which means right shift. So right stitch you have to increase. That's how you remember, because this is going to be center of cable. So knit front and back on the first stitch, which is your right side. There's only 2, so you know which one. And then second one, you just knit. Did you get that? I'll show you a couple more times. Okay. And the section A with the marker, now you have a 6 stitch, so be careful. And here comes. There we go. So the stitch count plus 1 divided by 2, so 3, but I don't want to pick up 3. I want to pick up whatever left over, so 2, and hold it at the back. So the 3 comes out front automatically. So I knit 3 from left needle, come back to cable needle, and increase take a place in the center, right? So here comes. That's gotta be my center, right? So if it's back and right twist, right side of the stitch you have to increase. So knit front and back on first stitch, then next just knit. Easy. And I'll show you one more time. Hopefully only one more. Maybe you're getting tired of it, doing, same thing. But if you don't understand, maybe you want to watch more times, right? Anyway, there we go. With the cable, pick up 2, hold it at the back, and knit 3 from left needle, and then knit right side, increase, so front and back, then knit next one. I have now 6 stitch. Okay, so now front and back cable I increase for both, right? Which means you have to increase 1 row. From now on, you have to repeat row number 1 to row number 8, because the cable itself is wider and wider, so you have to make it taller and taller. All right? And C6 F and B is too easy, so I'm gonna skip it. And next, I am going to see you at increasing. All right? Here comes now cable from 6 to 7 front. remember the formula from even to odd. So the stitch count divided by 2, which is 6 divided by 2 is 3 and plus 1, so 4. 4 stitch has to be out front, and this is front shifting, left shifting cable, right? So you have to pick 4 stitches with cable needle and hold it out front. Okay, 6 divided by 2 plus 1 is 4. 4 stitch have to be front. So again, you have to pick 4 stitch with cable because you're going to hold that cable out front. Right? So whatever it's left over will be 2. 6 minus 4 is 2, right? So here comes. Let's do that together. Again, 3 plus 1. More stitch, bigger number of the stitch will be crossed at the front. So I just picked the 4 stitch with the cable needle and then hold it out front. And now, okay, which stitch you have to increase? Well, easy. Left twist, which means on your left. So at the very last stitch, well, there's only 2, so you know which one, right? Very last stitch you have to increase. So if you see my written pattern, it's easier, right? Knit the first one and knit second one, and at the same time you have to increase, and the second one will be close to center. All right, so let's do that. Knit first one, just one, okay, and second one, which is on your left side of the stitch, you have to increase because this is left twist. And then now, as you can see, the increased stitch comes to center, because now when you start knitting from the cable, there you go, that's first one will be center, right? So all you have to remember, if it's left shift cable, you just have to increase on last stitch. That's about it. So you probably figured it out. So I'm gonna move on to cable from 6 to 7 back. Okay, so same number. Stitch 4 has to come out front, but this is back cable, which means cable needle goes to back, right? So I'm not gonna pick 4 stitch with cable needle, right? So 6 minus 4 equal 2. So I am going to pick up 2 stitch with cable needle and hold it at the back. So what's left? 4 stitch automatically come front, right? That's how you think. Super easy. But again, if you still don't get it, just follow my written pattern. I put detail on it, okay? I really hope you understand. So anyway, again, 6 minus 4 is 2, so I pick up 2 stitch with cable needle. And this is back cable, so I hold cable at the back. And the section A with the marker, that's a front, right? Front needle, a front cable. So I pick full stitch and hold it out front. This time back. So I knit 4 from left needle first, right? And come back to cable. And there's 2 stitch on the cable, right? And back cabling means right shift. So right side of the stitch, another word, first stitch, you have to increase. So in this case, knit front and back on first stitch. Increase first and then knit 1. So knit 4 from the left needle and then I increase 1 stitch at the back, make it 3 from 2, total of 7. So I increase 1 stitch. Let me actually do one more time. So 6 minus 4 is 2. So pick up 2 with cable needle and knit 4 from left needle and then come back to cable, right twist. So right side of the stitch I have to increase. Knit front and back and one last stitch, just knit. This is C from 6 to 7 back cable. So I increased 1 each for front and back. So now you have to repeat row 1 to row number 9. And this is C7F. Okay, it's odd number, so I'm going to show you, right? The bigger number out front. So 7, you can't divide by 2. So has to be 4 and 3. And I just pick 4 stitch with cable needle. Then knit 3 from left needle. Come back to cable needle. Again, this is front cable, which is left twist, which means you have to pick up more number of the stitch with cable needle. That's what I just did. And then next, I'm going to show you C7B, cable 7 back. You probably know by now, but I just want to make sure because it's odd number. Okay, so now C7B. Again, the bigger number cross front, and this time cable needle goes to back, so I only pick 3 with the cable needle and hold it at the back. Then knit 4 from left needle, right? No increasing, obviously. And then come back to cable needle, then knit 3 from cable needle. That's about it. Almost done. I actually stop after I increase 1 more stitch. So just be patient. Okay, so now C from 7 to 8 front. Formula time. So 7 plus 1 is 8. 8 divided by 2 is 4. So 4 stitch has to be out front. And this is front cable. So I pick 4 with cable needle and hold it out front. So what's left over? 3 stitch. And this is left twist, which means you have to increase at the very end of the stitch. Knit front and back. Did you get that? Super easy. now. Okay? And then come back to cable needle and knit 4 from cable needle. That's about it. So again and again, as long as you understand rule and formula, you can increase as many as you want. All right? And lastly, I want to show you how to increase cable 7 to 8 back. Again, 4 stitch has to come front, but this time cable needle goes to back, right? So 7 minus 4 is 3. So I have to pick up 3 with cable needle and hold it at the back. Then knit straight 4 from left needle, right? And increase takes place with needle behind. And then this is back. Right twist means on your right you have to increase. So there's a 3 stitch, but first one you have to increase. So knit front and back on first stitch, and rest of the 2 stitch just knit 2. That's about it. All right, so again, if you want to increase more, please do so. Okay, and for me, this is it. I knit few more rows and I knitted it about 13-14 inch from the bottom of the rib, from the top maybe around 18 inches, and that's good enough. Well, I just want to use just the one ball of yarn and that much left over, and for the binding off, I'm going to do 3 stitch I cord bind off. So that's the reason why I kind of want to stop right now. And that white yarn is just my lifeline because I wasn't quite sure that much leftover yarn is enough for 3 stitch I cord bind off or not. Anyway, 3 stitch I cord bind off, which means you consume a little bit more yarn compared to just a regular bind off. Another word, it's going to be a little bit wavy, but that's what I wanted. So you kind of have to, think. So if you need it, you might have to put the lifeline, security line, whatever it's called. So if you did something wrong, you can always come back and redo it, right? Or you can do just a regular, rib, and then this, skip the 3 stitch I cord, use regular bind off. Either way. Anyway, let me start 3 stitch I cord. I put the begin marker back, but I didn't have to. Anyway, the very first of this method is important. Okay, I have to create 3 extra stitch. That's why it called 3 stitch I cord. You can actually do 4 stitch, 5 stitch, just a bigger I cord you will create. So this is my original first stitch. I'm using this stitch to create another 3 extra. So knit kind of halfway. First one on the right needle is my first extra, and the left needle is original. And then this extra stitch you grab like that, kind of flip over, you know, original, and then the now first one is extra. And using this extra stitch, same thing. Knit halfway and grab with left needle, transfer the stitch back, and one more, right? 3 stitch. So just knit one more and grab it. There we go. So I create 3 extra in front of the original. And now you have to knit first 2 extra stitch. Now second. Okay? And here comes, this is important. You have to do knit 2 together with back loop. So 1 extra and 1 original, knit 2 together with back loop. So the original stitch goes down, which is kind of bind off. You know what I'm saying? There we go. And now you have to transfer all the 3 stitch back onto left needle. And you use those 3 as extra. So knit 2, right? Knit first 2 and next one, and then second original stitch. Now you have to bind off with through the back loop again. And now second original stitch is down, kind of bind off. There we go. That's the one, right? And then you just have to repeat. Transfer all the 3 stitch on the right needle to left needle and do it again. So from behind, you know, the working yarn is attached on the 3rd stitch. That's good that you're not making any mistake. There you go. Knit first one, second one, and then again through the back loop you have to knit it together. That's about it. And you just have to, you know, go around, do the same thing until last stitch. And then I have to actually show you how to finish the 3 stitch I-cord bind off. All right, so first 2 I just knit and then knit 2 together through the back loop. Then transfer 3 stitch from the right needle to left needle. That's about it. But you can tell, right? You're consuming more yarn compared to just a regular, you know, bind off, because 3 stitch extra every time you have to knit, right? So meet you at the very end. Okay, so this is almost end of the I-cord bind off. 1 more stitch left. So put the 3 stitch back from right needle and then do it again. Knit 1 and 2 and knit 2 together with back loop. There you go. So only 3 stitch left and no more original stitch, right? So you just go back. I mean, you know, transfer 3 stitch back and then just regular bind off. Okay, which means knit 2, then bind 1 off, just a regular bind off, and knit one more, then bind off. That's about it. And then you have to weave the ends off. So cut the yarn, whatever, and then there we go. So more yarn you use for bind off, right? Because, every time you knit two extra and then knit two together, right? So it's a little bit wavy, and that's what I wanted. All right. That's why I did the, I-cord bind off. However, if you want to use just a knit to purl to rib, fine. You can do it too. So this is it. It's all done. Weave all the ends off. And let's see. Start with knit to purl 2. And transition is beautiful, right? I didn't disturb any purl stitch in between cables. So always 2. And then cable is getting wider and wider and longer. I just love it. And then after I finish, I thought about it, and I can actually wear this as a skirt. So this would be poncho or skirt, right? But it's, too girly for me, so I'm not gonna wear as a skirt. But if this is for kids, that's wonderful. Anyway, this is the leftover yarn. Okay, so thank you for watching and enjoy knitting. Bye for now.